Rupert, what is your reaction to this row over Kemi Badenoch?
Well, I'm, the last two in this contest, Peter. I think both of them have got a tough job. The Tory party is, in many ways, split, and I think they have no one nation Tories left in the contest. So whoever wins this contest, whether it's Robert or whether it's Kemi, will have problems uniting the Conservative Party. So a small sort of discussion about whether or not Kemi Badenoch spends too much time with her children, I think is fairly irrelevant myself. But I wish both of them well. Whichever one is elected, good luck to them. I think they've got a tough job.
We don't hear about father of three Robert Jenrick. We don't hear that touted too often. I wonder what you would do if one of your colleagues in Reform, either an elected MP or someone behind the scenes, made a comment like that.
Well, fortunately, so far nobody has, Peter. So I wouldn't want to speculate about what may or may not happen. But look, I mean, it's their show, not ours, frankly. So I am like everybody else, looking in from outside.
Would you condemn the comments?
Peter Chope I'm entirely supportive of free speech. If he wants to make that comment, that's up to him. I mean, the whole essence of free speech, Peter, is it allows for the truth to be outed. If you suppress free speech, you suppress the truth. And it's the basis of our Constitution. It's the basis of everything that the country relies on. And it's a big part of our history. So I support free speech. And if he wants to say that, that's entirely up to him. And it's his opinion. He should be free to say it.
OK. Rupert, there are quite a few immigration stories around today. I want to talk about the government's dealing with them. Labour could be forced to reopen asylum hotels amid a migration surge. Almost 63,000 asylum seekers could get permission to remain if Labour has its way. That's part of the discussion at the moment, although an EU chief says migrant deportations are to increase. Where is the government on this, Rupert?
Well, it's very concerning, Peter. I think, if a nation can't protect its borders from illegal immigration and it can't keep its people safe, it's failing in its duty as a nation state. And the British people voted to take back their nation state in 2016. The problem we've got is that we've got a human rights lawyer in charge of ensuring that our borders are kept safe and our people are kept safe. And it's rather like having a chocolate fire guard. I don't think, despite whatever Keir Starmer says, I don't think that he is intent on doing what the majority of British people consider he should be doing, and that is to be sending illegal immigrants back. Under the treaties, we can do it. They should not be allowed to stay here. They should be deported without any question, as should those illegal foreign immigrants who've committed crimes here. They should equally be deported. So our country needs to man up a bit. It needs to start to run itself properly. But as you know, we can't do that until we leave the ECHR and we repeal the Human Rights Act.
Although, Rupert...
Australia, Peter, has shown the way forward. We all know that. It's not rocket science. Okay. It can be done if you have the will to do it.
Well, it's interesting, actually. If you look at the example of Germany, for example, which is in the ECHR and is also part of the European Union as well, which are two separate things. They're related, of course, but they are separate. They've managed to crack down on immigration. I just wonder, do we really need to leave the ECHR? Is that absolutely necessary? Obviously, it's incorporated in our laws in a different way to Germany. But if they can chuck out migrants they don't want without any change to their membership of the ECHR, why can't we?
Well, my view is, and we're, as you know, now in a different situation to them, we're not part of this post-war socialist plan, the European Union, which is protectionist. It's everything that personally I dislike. And I've campaigned long and hard to hopefully return us to a nation state. So we are a nation state, and our borders are not secure while we have foreign judges who are able to effectively intervene in what we're doing.
But I suppose my point, Rupert, sorry to interrupt you, but I suppose my point is that actually, I mean, Germany are even further in. They're part of the EU, and they are actually, they're far further into these institutions that you would, in one case we have withdrawn from, and in another case you want to withdraw from, and they can do it, but we somehow can't. I just wonder why the disparity.
I don't think Germany is necessarily doing it as effectively as you could if
But
you
they are
left the
doing it.
ECHR. They are, as are many people, Peter. I mean, Sweden it welcomed many immigrants, and it's now regretting that. You know, that the crime in Sweden is up, personal threats to Swedish, constituents is up, and they have stopped immigration pretty much dead now because they were very generous. And they have allowed large numbers of these people into their country, and unsurprisingly, it has created problems for them. Mm-hmm. And this is happening across Europe, and it will continue to happen. As you know, borders on occasion, the EU is sort of hell-bent on freedom of movement, but borders during COVID showed signs of coming back, and as you quite rightly say now, borders are showing signs of going up again. So I don't believe in the sustainability of the post-war EU experiment. It will fail. It's just a question of when, as will the euro, which is an index, not a currency. So I think we've made the right decision. Whether we timed it perfectly, that remains to be seen. I think we've made the right decision, but what we now need to do is put the interests of the British people first, manage our borders and keep our people safe. If you can't do that, you aren't a nation state.
One thing you're going to be doing as a Member of Parliament in about 2 weeks' time is responding and putting your thoughts in the public domain and those of your party on the budget. I just want to ask you about that because Rachel Reeves clearly under a lot of pressure, Rupert, at the moment in regard from her own cabinet, the cabinet that she is part of, her own party. We've got Angela Rayner, who's not just Deputy Prime Minister but also the Housing Secretary, trying to not have her budget cut. We've got the Justice Secretary presumably talking about building prisons and saying that she doesn't want her budget cut, and also the Transport Secretary, Louise Hay, saying that she doesn't want her budget cut. And actually, when you look at employer contributions and raising of taxes, I actually asked Keir Starmer on the 25th of June about this, and we're just going to play this clip one more time. This is what Keir Starmer told me.
I'm totally confident that we won't be putting tax up. We've been very clear in the manifesto about that. No income tax, no national insurance, no VAT rises. Everything is fully costed, fully funded.
That would appear to ring hollow now, Rupert. What do you think about national insurance contributions from employers going up, and how do you think the government should balance the books?
Well, let me first of all, Peter, say that the concerning thing is, in the case of Rachel Reeves, as with most of the front bench, I think 26 of them, and only 3 of them have had any form of arguably relatively irrelevant business experience. So where the ship is being, or the car is being driven by chalk jockeys. And with Rachel Reeves, as far as I'm aware, I mean, she takes every handout that's going. She claims every expense she's entitled to. I'm not aware of her having been personally very financially successful, and she's now in charge of what's going to happen.
She is an economist. She worked for the Bank of England.
Really, she may well have been a clerk at the Bank of England or whatever she was. She wasn't a senior part of the Bank. I think
she was a clerk. I think it was a bit more than that.
I'm sorry. They do not have the experience necessary. They don't understand the dynamics of what's going on. And it's quite straightforward. And you hear them talking about, he promised there weren't going to be tax cuts, tax increases, which clearly they are going to be. The biggest problem is the size of the state. The size of the state has risen almost sort of in a vertical upward line, and it now sits at 46% of GDP. So the biggest issue is, where are they going to make the cuts? And as you quite rightly say, nobody wants to see the cuts made, but the cuts need to be made. Everybody says taxes should go up. The people are already paying taxes at 70-year highs, and with the state sitting at 46% of GDP, that's the overt size of the state. The covert size of the state is probably much higher than that. So it needs to be cut, Peter, because it's not working. None of the state enterprises actually deliver the service for the people who both elect them and pay for their salaries through their taxes. So we've got to get real about this. And if Rachel Reeves thinks that by further increasing taxes and lumbering an increasingly small number of people who, as you know, pay most of the tax
That's
now,
right.
A very small percentage of people pay a very large percentage of the tax, and a lot of them are leaving the country. So if they're not very careful, they're going to find that the more they increase taxes, the less tax they collect.
And actually, the Institute for Fiscal Studies completely agrees with you and says that if you put up some of these taxes, you can actually shoot yourself in the foot, because businesses go bust, they don't set up, they don't do what they're meant to do. Just before you go, Rupert, maybe I could ask you about the apparent, well, no, it is now confirmed, the death of Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, the terrorist organisation in the Middle East. What's your reaction to that? Do you think the Middle East is going to be safer as a result, or not?
Well, look, I think Israel's fighting a war, Peter, and in a war you have to do whatever you need to do to win. And I have to say the Israelis are extremely effective at what they're doing. You have to remember that this is about the October the 7th atrocities. It's about the hostages that are still being held. And it's about, effectively a nation state being able to protect itself from people who are hell-bent on its destruction. So I think the whole thing is regrettable for the entire world, as indeed is the Ukraine conflict. But if you're fighting a war, you have to fight to win. You can't fight with one arm tied behind your back. And I have no problem with the Israelis targeting the people who are masterminding this hatred of Israel. And, I'm supportive of them doing whatever they need to do to protect their nation state. That's their right. Hopefully this will be settled soon, and we'll get some form of victory or peace one way or the other, and lives will cease to be lost needlessly. But until we get some sense out there, I think Israel has to keep fighting its corner.
Rupert, thank you. That's Rupert Lowe MP, who is a Reform UK MP for Great Yarmouth. Appreciate having him on the programme. And